Evan stood in the middle of the space station hangar, wiping grease off his hands. The hum of machinery filled the room, and sparks flew from the welding station nearby. He looked around at the humans and aliens working together. It was supposed to be a simple repair task, but something felt off. Ever since the alien delegation arrived, tension had been high. Humans were uneasy around the tall, armored aliens. And the aliens looked at the humans like they were fragile. Evan had worked with alien machines before. But this was different. These machines were delicate, precise, and if he made a mistake, the consequences could be serious. He adjusted the panel on the console, trying to calm his nerves. Then, he heard a sharp, metallic voice behind him. "What are you doing?" Evan turned and froze. Standing there was a woman, alien, taller than any human he had ever seen, with pale blue skin and silver eyes that seemed to pierce right through him. Her armor gleamed in the station lights, and her movements were precise, strong, and intimidating. I'm fixing the console," Evan stammered. "There was a malfunction in the main control panel, and I was just adjusting it." Her eyes narrowed. "It looks like you were tampering with the power core." Her voice was firm, almost like a weapon. "Do you know how dangerous that is?" I was careful," Evan said. "I know how important this is. I'm not trying to damage anything." The alien woman's shoulders squared. She stepped closer, her height making Evan feel smaller than he actually was. "Your hands are weak. You are not careful enough. One wrong move, and this station could be destroyed." The workers around them stepped back. Everyone knew that Lyra, the alien woman, was not someone to argue with. She had been sent by her people to supervise the repair team, and no one had ever seen her smile. No one had ever seen her lose her temper, either. Evan tried to stay calm. "I can assure you, everything is fine. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing." Her eyes flashed, and her voice rose. "Do not lie to me, human. I can see your hesitation. You are not trained for this work. You are careless." The tension in the room grew thick. Sparks flew from the nearby welding station, making the air feel hotter, heavier. Evan's heart beat fast. He knew arguing with her would only make things worse. But he also knew that if he didn't say something, she would report him as incompetent, and he could lose his job, or worse. Without thinking, he blurted out, "You're beautiful when you're angry." The words hung in the air. Even Evan realized immediately how strange they sounded. The hangar went completely silent. Aliens stopped working, humans froze in place, and Lyra's eyes widened. For a moment, she just stared at him. Her mouth opened slightly, and she seemed frozen. Then, her head tilted slightly, as if she were trying to understand what he said. What did you say?" she asked. Her voice lower now, almost soft. Evan swallowed hard. I mean, you look powerful, and when you're angry, it's impressive." Lyra blinked slowly. She had never heard such words from any creature before. On her planet, anger was a sign of strength, but it was feared, respected, and never admired. No one had ever complimented her when she was angry. No one had ever told her that it made her beautiful. Evan could feel his face turning red. He had probably made things worse, but he couldn't take back what he said. Lyra stepped back slightly, trying to hide her reaction. Her fingers twitched near her side, where her weapon would normally be, but she did not draw it. Instead, she just watched him. Her eyes, softer than before, filled with a strange curiosity. Evan cleared his throat. I didn't mean to insult you. I was just trying to calm the situation." Her eyes narrowed again, but it was not the same anger as before. It was curiosity. Humans say strange things, Why would you say that? Evan shrugged, feeling more nervous with every passing second. I guess, we humans, we sometimes notice things differently. When someone is strong or passionate, we see beauty in it, even when they are angry. Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Her silver eyes seemed to examine every part of him, as if she were searching for hidden meanings. Then, slowly, she spoke again. You, humans are strange. You see things that do not exist, yet you speak with confidence. Why are you not afraid of me? Evan chuckled nervously. I was afraid. I still am. But I also believe in saying what I feel. I think honesty is important. The alien woman paused. She had never heard honesty spoken like that before. Among her people, strength was everything, and feelings were often hidden. To admit fear, to admit admiration, was unusual. For the first time, she saw Evan not as a weak human, but as someone different. Someone brave enough to face her, without hiding. The silence stretched on. Workers resumed their tasks quietly, pretending nothing happened. Sparks flew again, but the air felt lighter. Somehow, Evan wiped his hands on his uniform and tried to focus on the console again. Lyra finally turned and walked a few steps away, still watching him. Finish your work, she said, her voice calm now. Do not make mistakes. Yes, ma'am, Evan replied, trying to hide his relief. As he worked, he felt her gaze on him. He could feel her studying him, and for some reason, it made his heart beat faster. He had seen warriors before, strong aliens with terrifying power, but Lyra was different. Her presence was commanding, yet something about her response to his words was unexpected. Hours passed. The console was repaired, and the station's power levels returned to normal. Lyra stayed nearby, silently observing. Evan tried to act normal, but he couldn't stop thinking about her. When the shift ended, the workers began leaving the hangar. Evan wiped his hands again and walked toward the exit. Lyra was standing near the doorway. You humans are very strange, she said quietly. And you are stranger than most. Evan smiled nervously. I suppose that is true. Her silver eyes met his, and for a moment, the tension between them disappeared. Do not make me angry again, she said softly. But, thank you for your words. Evan blinked. You mean that compliment? It matters, Lyra replied. It makes me... Evan's heart skipped a beat. He had never met anyone like her. She was strong, disciplined, and intimidating. Yet somehow, his simple words had reached her. As they parted ways for the day, Evan realized something. This encounter would not be forgotten by either of them. Something had changed. Something important. Lyra walked back toward her quarters, her mind racing. She had always relied on strength and discipline, but Evan's words had stirred something inside her. A strange warmth, a curiosity about humans, and a feeling she could not name. Evan, on the other hand, walked through the empty corridors of the station, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. He had survived his first encounter with a warrior alien woman, and somehow, his honesty had made a difference. Neither of them knew what the future would hold. But one thing was certain. The first spark had been lit, and for the first time in her life, Lyra felt something she had never felt before. Something beyond anger, beyond duty, beyond fear. Something that made her heart melt. The station lights flickered above them, casting long shadows in the hallways. Outside, the stars of a distant galaxy twinkled silently. Inside, two beings from completely different worlds had shared a moment that neither would forget. Evan smiled to himself. He did not know it yet, but this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. Lyra, alone in her quarters, touched her hand to her chest, thinking of the human who dared to speak what no one else had. She wondered what it would feel like to see him again. The day ended quietly on the space station, but the story between a human and an alien woman had just begun. The next morning, Evan arrived early at the station, hoping to finish the routine maintenance before the alien delegation began their inspections. The hangar was quiet, except for the low hum of the machinery and the soft footsteps of workers preparing for the day. He still could not get Lyra out of his mind. Her silver eyes, the way she carried herself, and the unusual softness she had shown after his words. He kept replaying the moment when he had told her she was beautiful when she was angry. He wondered if it had really affected her, or if he had only imagined it. As he approached the console, he noticed movement from the corner of his eye. Lyra was already there. She stood near one of the massive power conduits, her arms crossed. She watched him silently, and for a moment, Evan froze. "Good morning," he said cautiously. She tilted her head. "You are on time." Her voice was calm, but carried her usual strength. "Yes, ma'am," Evan replied. He felt nervous, even though nothing dangerous was happening yet. Lyra's gaze lingered on him longer than necessary. It made Evan feel exposed, as if she could see everything inside him. He tried to focus on the console, but he could feel her presence pressing on his attention. "Are you always this careful?" she asked, stepping closer. Evan chuckled lightly, trying to hide his nerves. "We are careful because we have to be. Even small mistakes can have big consequences." Lyra studied him. "I do not understand humans. You worry about small things, yet you act without fear sometimes." Evan smiled, trying to sound confident. "That is because fear does not always stop us. Sometimes we just have to act, even if we are afraid." Her silver eyes softened for a brief moment. "Interesting. You are not like the others I have met." Evan felt a small thrill of pride. He had worked with many aliens, and most of them looked down on humans. But Lyra, she was different. He could feel that she respected strength, and somehow, she seemed to be testing him. For the rest of the morning, Evan worked on the repairs while Lyra observed silently. Occasionally, she would step closer and offer instructions, but she never touched the tools herself. Her presence was strong and intimidating, yet Evan felt oddly encouraged. At lunchtime, the hangar cleared, leaving only a few workers and Lyra. Evan decided to take a chance. "Do you want something to eat?" he asked. "I can bring some rations from the mess hall." Lyra's head tilted, and she gave a slight nod. "I suppose it would not hurt to eat. Humans eat strange things." Evan laughed. "You might be surprised. It is not all strange." He went quickly to fetch the rations and returned with 2 trays. They found a quiet corner of the hangar and sat on a ledge near the observation window. The view was breathtaking. Stars stretched across the black sky, and the distant planets glowed faintly in the void. Lyra watched silently as Evan unpacked the rations. "You eat with your hands," she said finally, her voice curious. "No tools?" Evan nodded. "Yes. Some foods are easier that way. Humans adapt." Lyra studied him as he ate. She noticed the way he moved, how careful he was with the food, and yet how relaxed he seemed. She had never seen a human handle small tasks with such balance of caution and ease. "You are strange," she said, almost thoughtfully. "Not weak, but not like a warrior either. You act with skill, but without the desire to dominate." Evan smiled. "That is because we do not need to dominate everyone. Strength is useful, but it is not everything." She looked at him for a long moment, considering his words. For a warrior of her people, strength was everything. But somehow, Evan's view made sense. She felt a small spark of admiration, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel curiosity instead of judgment. They ate in silence for a while. Then Lyra spoke again. Tell me, why did you say what you said yesterday? About my anger. G. 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 Evan paused. He was not sure how to explain it. I guess. I noticed you were angry, and most people would fear it or dislike it. But I saw something else. You were strong, passionate, honest in your anger. And I think that is beautiful. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Beautiful? She said the word slowly, tasting it, as if it was new to her. Yes, Evan said, meeting her gaze. It is not weakness to be angry. It is honesty. It shows who you are inside. And I admire that. Lyra considered his words. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Her anger was always a weapon, a tool to command respect. No one had ever praised it. And now, a human fragile, small, and not trained for combat had called it beautiful. For a moment, she felt a warmth in her chest she had never known. It was strange and uncomfortable, but also pleasant. Her heart, trained for battle and duty, felt lighter. You humans are confusing, she said finally, her voice quieter than before. You speak in ways that do not always make sense, yet you are honest. Evan nodded. That is all we have. We try to see the truth and say what we feel, even if it is strange to others. Lyra leaned back slightly, looking out the observation window. Perhaps there is more to humans than I thought. You are not all weak or foolish. Evan smiled. Thank you. I think there is more to your people than most humans think too. Strength is important, but it is not everything. For the next few hours, they worked together quietly. Evan handled the console repairs, while Lyra observed, occasionally giving precise instructions. There was no argument, no confrontation, just careful work, shared attention, and a strange feeling of mutual respect. As the day went on, small things began to happen that neither expected. Lyra began to notice how Evan reacted under pressure. He did not panic when sparks flew or alarms went off. He stayed calm, focused, and careful. She had expected humans to be easily frightened, but Evan was different. And Evan noticed her too. He saw how she moved, how her eyes scanned the room constantly, and how every movement was efficient and precise. He realized that beneath her tough exterior was someone who valued control and discipline. And yet, she was beginning to trust him in ways that surprised him. Later, when the work was nearly done, a minor alert sounded. A small panel had overheated, and smoke began to rise. Evan moved quickly, shutting down the power flow and opening the vent to release the heat. Lyra watched, impressed by how swiftly he acted. You are capable, she said finally, her voice almost quiet. I expected failure. Evan shrugged, smiling slightly. I try my best. That is all I can do. Lyra regarded him for a moment, then nodded. She felt a strange respect, mixed with curiosity. He was not like other humans. He was honest, brave, and capable. And somehow, he had said something that touched her heart. When the repairs were finished, the hangar was quiet again. The other workers had left for the day. Lyra stood near the doorway, watching Evan carefully. You have done well today, she said. Better than I expected. Thank you, Evan replied. It is easier to do well when someone competent watches over me. Lyra considered his words. It was unusual for a human to speak with such quiet confidence. Most humans would beg or bow under her gaze, but Evan met her eyes without fear. And somehow, that made her feel. I will observe you again, she said. Not because I do not trust you, but because I want to see more of your ways. Evan felt a small thrill. I would like that, he said honestly. I want to learn more about your ways too. There is a lot humans do not understand. For a long moment, they stood in silence, looking at each other. The air between them felt different. Something unspoken passed from one to the other, a connection neither fully understood, but both felt. Finally, Lyra turned and left, her armor clicking softly with each step. Evan watched her go, feeling a mixture of relief and excitement. She had not dismissed him, not judged him fully, and had even allowed him into her thoughts. As the hangar lights dimmed, Evan realized that this was more than just work. Something important was beginning, something that might change both of their lives. Lyra, walking through the station corridors toward her quarters, thought about the human who had spoken words she could not forget. His honesty, bravery, and courage had stirred something inside her, a feeling she had never experienced before. She did not know what it meant yet, but she wanted to understand it. She wanted to see him again, to learn more about this strange human and the strange world he came from. And somewhere deep inside, she admitted to herself a quiet truth. She looked forward to it. The next day, Evan arrived at the hangar, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. Lyra was already there, examining the power conduits with her usual sharp focus. She noticed him immediately and raised an eyebrow. "You are early," she said. "Yes, ma'am," Evan replied. He tried to sound confident, but inside, he felt a flutter of nerves. Lyra did not speak again. She moved silently through the hangar, inspecting the systems, her armor clinking softly with each step. Evan followed her, carrying his toolkit and checking the smaller panels as she walked past. The morning passed without incident, but the calm did not last. Suddenly, the lights in the hangar flickered, and a loud alarm began to ring. Red lights flashed across the walls. Evan's stomach dropped. "What is happening?" he shouted over the noise. Lyra turned swiftly, her eyes narrowing. "Sabotage. Someone has tampered with the station's systems. Follow me, and stay close." Evan hurried after her as she ran toward the main power conduit. Sparks flew from a damaged panel, and smoke rose in thick clouds. Workers scattered, some shouting in panic. Lyra's presence was commanding. The room seemed to bend to her will as she moved with precision. "You humans are fragile," she said over the alarms. "Keep up, or you will be in danger." Evan ran as fast as he could, his heart pounding. He could see that the main power core was in danger. If it failed, the station could be destroyed. He swallowed his fear and focused on the task ahead. Lyra reached the damaged panel first. She assessed it quickly, her silver eyes scanning every wire and conduit. Then she turned to Evan. "You will need to help me stabilize it," she said. "Do not make mistakes." Evan nodded. "I understand." Together, they moved to the control panel. Evan worked quickly, following the instructions Lyra gave. Her knowledge of the systems was precise, and her voice was calm even as the alarms continued. She guided him step by step, correcting mistakes and pointing out what to avoid. "You humans are slow," she said, not unkindly. "But you are clever. Use your hands carefully." Evan felt a small surge of pride. Lyra's praise, even in the middle of danger, meant a lot to him. He focused harder, ignoring the heat, the smoke, and the flashing lights. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Sparks flew dangerously close to them. Evan's fingers shook as he connected a wire, but Lyra's hand reached out, steadying his. "Do not hesitate," she said. "Trust your instincts." Her touch was brief, but it sent a strange warmth through Evan. He took a deep breath and focused. Slowly, carefully, he completed the connections. The alarms did not stop, but the sparks began to fade. The system was stabilizing. Lyra's eyes softened slightly as she observed him. "You did well," she said. "Not many humans could keep calm under pressure." Evan smiled briefly, feeling exhausted but proud. Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you. Lyra glanced around. There is more work to do. We must check all conduits and panels. Sabotage may have spread. They moved together through the hangar, working side by side. Lyra's attention to detail was remarkable. She moved like a predator. Quick, precise, and aware of every danger. Evan, though slower, compensated with ingenuity and careful hands. Together, they were a team. As they repaired another panel, a small explosion rocked the room. Smoke filled the air, and Evan stumbled, coughing. Lyra reached out and grabbed his arm, pulling him to safety. You must stay alert, she said. Her voice was firm, but there was a hint of concern in her eyes. Evan nodded, coughing. I will. I promise. For the next hour, they continued to move through the damaged sections, repairing what they could. Each time danger arose, Lyra guided him, and Evan followed her instructions. They learned to trust each other, their movements growing coordinated and precise. Finally, they reached the last section of the hangar. A large panel had caught fire, threatening the main power core. Evan's heart raced. I cannot reach it alone, Evan said, his voice tight. You can, Lyra replied. I will guide you. Move carefully. Evan stepped forward, following her directions exactly. Lyra's eyes were on him the entire time, watching his hands, his movements, his breathing. She noticed his focus, his determination, and something inside her shifted. She felt admiration, respect, and something else she could not name. Evan reached the panel and carefully disconnected the damaged wiring. Sparks flew dangerously close, but he did not panic. He followed Lyra's instructions, reconnecting the system in a precise sequence. Finally, the smoke cleared, and the alarms stopped. The station was safe. Evan dropped to his knees, exhausted. Lyra stood over him for a moment, observing. Then, she extended a hand. You survived, she said simply. Not many humans would have managed this. Evan took her hand and stood. We survived, he said, smiling. Lyra studied him, and for the first time, she allowed herself to show a small smile. It was faint, but genuine. You humans are remarkable, she said quietly. You are fragile, but you endure. You are clever, and sometimes, you are brave. Evan's chest tightened. He had never heard her speak like this before. There was no sarcasm, no judgment, only admiration. Thank you, he said softly. Lyra's eyes flickered. She did not know how to respond. Her people were not used to speaking about feelings, and admiration was rarely expressed aloud. Yet, she felt something stir inside her, a strange warmth, a spark of connection. They walked together toward the exit of the hangar. The smoke was clearing, and the station's systems were stabilizing. Workers were returning. Some, looking at them with awe. They had witnessed the human and the alien warrior working together as a team. Tell me, Lyra said suddenly. Why do humans risk themselves for others? You could have stayed safe. Why did you act? Evan thought for a moment. Because it was the right thing to do. Someone had to stop the danger, and I could not let anyone get hurt, including you. Lyra's eyes softened further. No one had ever risked themselves for her before. Her life was usually about duty and strength. Humans did strange things. And yet, Evan had risked his life without hesitation. You are not like others, she said quietly. You act from a place I do not understand. Evan smiled. I guess humans are strange that way. We care about each other, even when it is dangerous. For a long moment, they walked in silence. Then, Lyra spoke again, her voice softer than before. I trust you, she said. Evan stopped, surprised. Yes, she replied. Not fully, but enough. Today, you proved yourself. Evan felt a warmth in his chest. Trust from Lyra was rare and valuable. He nodded. I will do my best to earn more of it. They reached the observation window overlooking the stars. Lyra paused, looking out at the galaxy. Your people see beauty differently, she said. Yesterday, you said something strange to me. It lingered in my mind. Evan's heart skipped a beat. You mean about your anger? Lyra nodded. Yes, I have thought about it. You called something powerful in me beautiful. No one has ever done that before. It surprised me. Evan stepped closer. I meant it. You are strong, passionate, and honest. That is rare. That is why I said it. Lyra studied him carefully. Perhaps I do not fully understand humans, but I feel something because of your words. Something I have not felt before. Evan smiled softly. I'm glad. That is all I hoped for. I wanted you to know that strength and passion can be admired, not feared. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to relax. Her warrior instincts were still strong, but the tension in her chest had eased. She felt a strange warmth, a spark of connection to this small, brave human. You have changed my view, she said quietly. Perhaps humans are not so weak after all. Evan felt a surge of hope. And perhaps alien warriors are not as distant as they seem, he said gently. They stood side by side, looking out at the stars. Neither spoke for a while, but the silence was comfortable. They had survived danger together, and something important had formed between them: trust, respect, and the first hints of friendship, or perhaps more. As the station returned to normal operations, Evan knew one thing. This was only the beginning. He had faced danger, worked with a warrior alien, and survived. And in the process, he had created a connection that neither of them would forget. Lyra, walking back to her quarters, thought about the human beside her. His courage, his honesty, his strange words all had stirred something inside her she could not yet name. She did not understand it fully, but she wanted to. She wanted to see him again. And deep inside, she admitted to herself a quiet truth. She was beginning to care. The stars outside twinkled silently, as if witnessing the start of something extraordinary.